Hold harmless clause. Agreement not to sue the maker of the contract. The hold harmless clause is an agreement in a contract not to sue the maker of the contract specifically for innocent misrepresentations, which is wrong information that is unknowingly provided by the principal. The hold harmless clause does not protect against fraud, which is the willful presentation of wrong information or the willful withholding of material information for the purpose of stealing. The hold harmless clause is an agreement in a contract not to sue the maker of the contract for innocent misrepresentations. Related words, innocent misrepresentations. Discharge of contract. Terminate or cancel a contract. The phrase discharge of contract means to terminate or cancel a contract. There are several ways to discharge a contract. They are performance, release, assignment, novation, and breach. Performance is the discharge of a contract or completion of the contract or execution of the contract, the fulfillment of all aspects as agreed. Release is a discharge of contract in that one party does not require the other to perform. Assignment involves the principal, parentheses assigner and parentheses, assigning his rights and benefits to an accepting assignee. But assignment does not remove responsibility from the principal. If the assignee drops the ball, the principal must pick it back up. Novation is discharge of contract by substituting a new agreement for the old one. Novation does release all responsibilities from the old agreement. Breach is a discharge of contract by failing to fulfill the terms of the agreement. Discharge of contract is to terminate or cancel a contract. Unilateral contract. Legally binding one-way promise to perform. Quote, uni, end quote, means one, and therefore a unilateral contract is an agreement with only a single promise. The classic example is to offer a reward for a lost pet. The pet owner is promising to pay if the pet is found, but the finder is not making any promises. The finder of the pet may search for the pet or not. There is no obligation. However, if the pet is found, the owner has promised to pay the reward. A unilateral contract is a one-way promise. A bilateral contract is an agreement for a promise for a promise. This means that if a buyer agrees to buy a seller's property, then the buyer has agreed to pay the seller the price, and the seller has agreed to turn over the property. Quote, buy, B-I, end quote, means two, and this is a contract with two promises. A bilateral contract is an agreement in two directions, a promise for a promise. A unilateral contract is an agreement in one direction, a one-way promise to perform. Antonyms: bilateral contract, related words, contract. Voidable contract. Valid contract which can be rejected by a party. Quote, voidable, end quote, is different from a void contract. A void contract is no good and cannot be used. A voidable contract is valid until one party, for a very particular reason, decides to void the contract. A good example is a contract made with a minor. A contract made with a minor is not immediately void. If the minor wants to keep the contract in place, then it remains so. If the minor wants to void the contract, then the contract is void. So a contract made with a minor is voidable because it remains in force until and when the minor decides to void it. A voidable contract is a valid contract which can be rejected by a party. Certificate of Reasonable Value, CRV. Appraisal of property value for VA loan purposes. The California Department of Veteran Affairs, parentheses, the VA, end parentheses, administers several real estate loans for veterans. One is the CalVet Loan Program, and another is a more traditional loan guarantee program called a VA loan. The VA loan requires the borrower to obtain a Certificate of Eligibility, COE, from the VA. The COE includes the veteran's maximum loan amount or entitlement amount. Once a home is found, the veteran applies for a VA loan and an appraiser produces a Certificate of Reasonable Value, CRV. The home price has to be below the CRV. The Certificate of Reasonable Value of a property is an appraisal for the purposes of obtaining a VA loan. Puffing. Not misrepresentation, but exaggerations to make a sale. Quote, puffing, end quote, means hyping a property to make a sale more likely. It is not illegal, but considered unprofessional. One step beyond puffing is misrepresentation, which is lying and is illegal. Related words, misrepresentation. Mortgagor. Homeowner who borrows money or takes a loan on real property. The mortgagor is the borrower or homeowner. The mortgagee is the bank. Mortgage is the name for the voluntary lien used to hypothecate real property. A mortgage is different from a trust deed in that a mortgage uses a court foreclosure and a trust deed uses a trustee foreclosure. The trustee foreclosure takes only 3 months, and the court foreclosure takes 6 months. This is why in California, only trust deeds are used even though homeowners commonly call them mortgages. There are 3 parties to a trust deed. The borrower is the trustor, the lender is the beneficiary, and the neutral third party is the trustee. For both a mortgage and a trust deed, in a mortgage, the mortgagor is the borrower or homeowner, and in the trust deed, the trustor is the borrower or homeowner. Usury Law. Maximum amount of interest is controlled by law. Usury is charging exorbitant amounts of interest. In general, our culture has made interest rates of a certain high level illegal, parentheses, and immoral, in parentheses. Charging above the maximum percent rate is usury. What the rate actually is typically depends on state law, and usury percentages do vary. Usury laws exist because unscrupulous lenders have used borrowers' desperation for money to take advantage of them. Even though it is illegal to, quote, own, end quote, a person, high interest rates do impose a form of financial slavery. Super high interest rates often guarantee that a loan can never be repaid. Exorbitant levels of interest are a form of abuse. Usury is charging a higher than legal, parentheses, or moral, end parentheses, interest rate. Code of Ethics. Professional Standards of Conduct. The Code of Ethics is a set of standards by which real estate professionals measure themselves and act. The foundation of all behavior standards is trust. Sellers and buyers can only function in an environment of trust. Trust requires consistent behavior standards. Hence, a code of ethics is required for businesses to flourish. Short-term gains often have to be sacrificed on the altar of long-term trust. A code of ethics is a consistent set of standards of conduct. Ownership in severalty. How an individual takes ownership of real property. Ownership in severalty is how a single person takes ownership of real property. An individual who owns property is a very clean and simple situation. The complication comes in when multiple people own property. That is when the types of tenancy come into play. There is joint tenancy, common tenancy, community property tenancy, and partnership tenancy. These concepts are all quite complicated because they deal with multiple people owning the same property. Ownership in severalty is how a single person takes ownership of real property.